When we talk about the kings of the muscle car era, there's one name that refuses to fade into history: the 1970 Oldsmobile 442. This machine wasn't just a car, it was a statement. A rolling combination of raw power, bold styling, and mechanical dominance. Even decades later, it still commands respect in garages, car shows, auctions, and anywhere serious gearheads gather. Let's break down why the 7442 isn't just remembered, it's revered. First up, the design. The 1970 Olds 442 didn't just look fast, it looked mean. With its wide, low stance, aggressive body lines, and unmistakable front grille, the 442 screamed muscle before you ever fired up the engine. Add in functional hood scoops, bold striping, and a rear spoiler, and you got a car that wasn't trying to blend in. This wasn't about luxury or subtlety. It was about dominance. That bold, confident design remains a source of inspiration for today's muscle cars and continues to draw crowds at any classic car meet. Now let's talk about what made this beast roar: the engine. Under the hood sat a monstrous 455 cubic inch rocket V8. This wasn't just for show. It pumped out big block torque and horsepower numbers that could humble most of its rivals. Rated at 365 horsepower and 500 lb-ft of torque, this car could burn rubber all day long. But what really made it legendary was how reliable it was. It wasn't fragile. It wasn't fussy. It just ran hard. For collectors today, the Rocket V8 is the heart and soul of what made the 442 a true legend. Performance-wise, the 1970 Olds 442 delivered the full package. This wasn't just a car that looked good. It backed it up on the asphalt, 0 to 60 in the 6-second range. A top speed that climbed north of 120 miles per hour. And it wasn't all straight-line speed. With a finely tuned suspension, tight steering, and solid chassis dynamics, the 442 could handle itself in the corners too. It had the brute strength and the finesse to make it a real driver's car, not just a straight-line bruiser. And then there's a legendary W30 package. This wasn't just a badge. It was a performance upgrade that transformed the 442 into a factory-built street warrior. The W30 added a hotter camshaft, aluminum intake manifold, functional cold air induction through those twin scoops, and red inner fender liners for good measure. These touches weren't cosmetic. They added real horsepower and real speed. A W30 equipped 442 was a top-tier threat from Oldsmobile, and today, they're among the most sought-after collector models from the entire muscle car era. What really set the 442 apart, though, was its ride quality. Despite the massive V8 and aggressive stance, it was surprisingly smooth and refined on the road. Oldsmobile engineered the 442 to ride like a gentleman's muscle car, one that could tear up the streets, then cruise home comfortably. That balance made it a hit with drivers who wanted performance without sacrificing drivability. It's part of what makes the 442 still so enjoyable to own and drive today. Let's not forget rarity. The 1970 Olds 442 wasn't mass-produced in the way some of its competitors were. And if you're talking about W30 models, those are even scarcer. Limited production numbers have turned this car into a hot commodity. It's one thing to own a muscle car. It's another thing to own a muscle car that very few people can find. That exclusivity adds to the mystique and the price tag of the Olds 442. The collector community hasn't let this car fade into the background either. The 442 has a passionate fan base that spans generations. You'll see it at high-end auctions, classic car rallies, and restoration shops across the country. There's something about the 442 that connects deeply with enthusiasts, whether they lived through the 70s or discovered the car years later. The respect it commands isn't just nostalgic, it's earned. Culturally, the 442 played a role in defining an era. You saw it in movies, music videos, and car magazines. It represented a time when Detroit was building unapologetic, high-horsepower machines that pushed the envelope. The 442 symbolized that fearless approach to performance, and that legacy still resonates today. It was bold, it was fast, and it didn't care what anyone else thought. Its appeal has aged like fine wine. The 442 still looks good today. Not just good, great. Its proportions, body lines, and aggressive attitude have stood the test of time. Even if you parked it next to modern muscle, the 442 would hold its own. It's a car that makes people stop, stare, and ask questions, because great design never goes out of style, and the 442 nailed it. Lastly, we can't ignore the influence the 442 has had on modern muscle cars. From a return of functional hood scoops to the focus on balanced power and handling, the blueprint set by Oldsmobile lives on. You can trace the DNA of the 442 through today's Chargers, Mustangs, and Camaros. And while Oldsmobile may be gone, the mark they left with this car is still very much alive. So whether you're a seasoned collector, a muscle car historian, or just someone who respects raw American engineering, the 1970 Oldsmobile 442 stands tall. It's not just a car, it's a legend, and it continues to remind us what real power, style, and performance look like. Smash that like button, subscribe to CarSwagger, and drop a comment sharing your favorite Olds 442 memory or dream spec. We don't just admire the classics, we keep their legacy alive. See you in the next ride. Thanks for watching. Peace.